All right, now things get serious here. All right, welcome to LAFC Plus episode.
You said that last
40.
week, Dave. Come on.
I know. Now I mean it. Episode 40 of LAFC Plus. Can you believe that, Mario Ruiz? He is Mario. I'm Dave.
Oh my goodness!
Welcome.
The big 4-0.
The big 4-0.
We're over the hill.
Yeah. Do you know the zero birthdays never really bother me.
Okay.
Had a lot of them, but the big, they're supposed to be the fives. Get me for some reason. Like 35 made me feel weird.
Oh, okay.
45 was odd. So I got 55 coming up soon. So that's going to be rough, I think. The zero ones are just, they didn't affect me that bad. How about you?
I don't know. I think the 41 definitely did because I definitely felt it in my body. I didn't feel any of the other birthdays, but the 41, I think I definitely felt that, and I still feel that every day when I wake up. So that one's definitely hurting. But I think we're just hitting our stride here with LAFC Plus, though. It's been fun, and I think right now it's just, what a moment. What a time to be alive here in the MLS Cup playoffs with only 8 teams left.
No, Mario was right. I really did say that, but the playoffs really do begin because when you're still around, right, in those best of threes, okay, those final games, it's winner take all, but you were, as long as you won the first one, right, you're going to force a game 3. Okay, that's fine, but you're still alive, so to speak. And it's not that there's not pressure. Of course, somebody's getting beat. But now it's the knockout stages where there's no room for error. There is no, second chance, if you will. Yeah. It's all or nothing here for the final 8 teams in MLS, 4 in each conference. Of course, there's a conference semifinals coming up. We've had some time off. I hope you enjoyed your time.
That was kind of weird.
You usually go traveling the world, Mario. I asked you last time, but you said no big traveling for you, huh? You didn't really make any
with the schedule that we have, it's tough to get away and break away and take any type of vacation. So anytime we do get a rare weekend off, I like to just jet out somewhere, at least for 3 or 4 days. But this time I stayed home, and it was kind of just a weird feeling, just not having to prepare for a broadcast, not having to prepare for a game or anything like that. So yeah, I was ready to keep it going. And I can only imagine these teams that swept their opponents, in 2 games, having almost three weeks off by the time this weekend comes by. That's going to be a long time for those teams like the Galaxy. Is it just going to click right away? The first whistle blows, and are they going to be in form, in stride, in rhythm? That's going to be tough.
Well, here's the thing about the Galaxy. Remember Ricky Puig put out a tweet, something about that. 23 days and everything. Cry me a river, Ricky, because Minnesota won 2 straight. They've been off, right? So you're playing a team at home that also has had that kind of layoff, that long layoff. So cry me a river. Just go beat them if you're that good. So
I think if teams do lose, I think this will be brought up for sure. I don't know if it'll be an excuse or it might be a reason or whatever it is, but I'm pretty sure it will be brought up again.
Everybody's had time off. Now, the rest of the East, if we look at the Eastern Conference, we'll get there in a moment, but they all played a third match. So they're all on even, quote-unquote, even ground in that sense, right? They all had to get through a third game. Yeah. And in the West, LAFC, Seattle won 2 straight. They're the only ones that really would have a beef, if you will, of having that extra week off. And we've never heard Seattle complain about that kind of stuff. I don't think Brian Schmetzer's that kind of, manager. Definitely he's not going to make excuses. And honestly, if Seattle happen to lose, nobody's going to bring up the fact they had an extra week off because they always lose to us. So,
they're going up against LAFC, who has their number for 2 years.
And LAFC can't say that kind of stuff, but we can here at LAFC Plus. Again, welcome to the show, episode 40. We'll get right to it. LAFC does take on Seattle. We will begin here. Why not? It is the black and gold against the Sounders. LAFC 3 straight wins this season against the Seattle Sounders. 2 of them, of course, in MLS play were both 3-0 wins. And then the 1-0 up at Starfire in the U.S. Open Cup. Fresh off that tough loss in the Leagues Cup final. Remember, they had to go in the middle of the week after losing in Columbus. Just a tough game. Then you have to go midweek in a semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup to Starfire, where you've never played. Seattle have, but they don't normally. It's just a weird environment. Pretty cool, but weird.
Yeah, right.
I I kind of dig it, but it is still weird to play it. And LAFC got that big win. And look, they've been dominant against the Sounders. Haven't lost for a few years now. 2021? But Seattle, Mario, will just go ahead and say all good things must come to an end, or all streaks have to end, right?
Yeah.
And now, why not us? Because they have been a lot better down the stretch, haven't they?
Yeah, and Steve Cherundolo will tell you that. He'll tell you when you're talking about streaks and undefeated streaks and 8-0 and 4-0, whatever, he doesn't want to hear that. Every game is a new game, and he doesn't want to hear that stuff. And I agree with him. So these are the playoffs. It's a whole nother level of competition. But I was just thinking about the level of competition that LAFC has been facing so far in the playoffs, and if they do make it to the next round, and the potential there for that matchup against possibly the Galaxy, I think LAFC probably have the toughest road to the MLS Cup. I mean, you had to face Vancouver in that first series, and that went the 3 games. And then you got Seattle here. Seattle's a very, very tough team to knock out. I don't care who you are, even if you do have this streak of, you haven't lost to them in 2 years or whatever it is. Seattle's a very tough team to beat in the playoffs for anybody. And then if you do make it past them, you do go up against probably the Galaxy, which in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, I'm not the only one that thinks this, would probably be the MLS Cup final. Because those teams in the East, I think LAFC are on another level compared to those teams on the East, especially with the top 1, 2, and 3 gone. So just this road for LAFC has been very tough. But hey, if you want to be champion, we always say, I know you always say this, you got to go out and beat the best, right, Dave?
Sure, absolutely. The home team now throughout the rest of the playoffs. We all talked about that. We all know how Inter Miami kind of, Columbus really had a rough playoffs, losing 2 straight. Inter Miami, of course, losing in the 3rd match against Atlanta. So it's all set up now for LAFC, right? That's a little more pressure. I don't care what anyone says. That's a little more pressure because the Sounders don't really have much to lose. Yes, they have a lot to lose within their own fan base because they keep getting pummeled by LAFC. And they just want that to end. And if it ends here, that's a large step towards forgiveness, if you will, in terms of their fan base for how bad they've been getting beat up by LAFC. It pretty much erases that realistically, because then you're on to the Western Conference Final. Oh, yeah. And you talk about the East. I get that. I think these are the best 4 teams in the West. I don't doubt that at all. A deference, a little tip of the cap to RSL, but I think Minnesota's been playing better than RSL. And I really didn't think that was that big of an upset, right? I think Minnesota's one of the hottest teams. That doesn't mean they were the best all year. Of course, they were, a 6th seed
but
for
RSL
a reason.
Tapered off so early in the season.
But RSL tapered off. Yeah, exactly. So when you're going into the playoffs matters, of course, how you're playing. And I think these are the best 4 teams in the West. I don't think I can say that about the East. There was plenty of upsets in the East. They weren't the best teams, if you will, even now. For all the failure of Inter and Columbus, there are reasons for that I don't think mean that Atlanta's better than Inter Miami or Columbus or worse than New York Red Bulls by any means. But those teams got there. I'll tell you what, Mario, again, teams are not allowed to look ahead and past the next game. Right. I'm just going to lay this out here. If LAFC, if, right? If they were to get past Seattle, and then if they were to get past either Galaxy or Minnesota, I think it's probably going to be the Galaxy. We'll talk. I'm more scared about a final at home against a team that you're now just supposed to beat, right? Because, the East, all the good teams got beat already. Well, somebody's going to be coming from the East to make MLS Cup, right? So no matter who gets out of the West, you're probably the favorite, no matter who it is, honestly. Maybe if Minnesota goes to Orlando, if something like that happens, I guess Orlando might be considered the favorite at home. That's the only scenario, right? Yeah. So in all likelihood, the West is... because you battled through a tough West. Now you're
what a letdown that would be.
Yeah, you're supposed to just beat the East, right? It's just like, that's not automatic. We can't think like that, right?
You would have to beat the East. If you go through what LAFC is going through.
I hate hearing you talk like that. You're making me more nervous, Reese.
But you know what?
This is on you then.
How big is home field through this playoff run and to that MLS Cup, because I don't know if LAFC makes it through this playoff run without home field advantage, because look at these opponents. Like I said, you have to go to Carson, you have to go to Seattle, but no, LAFC are at home, and that MLS Cup final would be at home if it does happen. And like you say, we can talk about this because we're on microphones. We're not the players, we're not the coaches, and this is fun, this is entertaining, and this is what we're all about. So we can look ahead and talk about this type of stuff. Not too much, though.
How wild would it be for a team, though, if let's say you're Minnesota and you beat the Galaxy, right?
Yeah.
Just shock them on the road. First loss at Dignity Health Sports Park of the season. You beat LAFC at home somehow, right? Like at LAFC's place, I should say, on the road. And you get a home game for the final. Like you have to go through this gauntlet, right?
Oh, yeah.
You go through this absolute meat grinder in the West. Minnesota on the road at RSL, on the road at the Galaxy, on the road potentially at LAFC. That would be beating the third, the second, and the first seed.
That would be
And
wild.
then you get a home match against one of the New York teams, let's say. Maybe they get through. Oh, the pressure. That would be it would be amazing run for Minnesota United. Don't get me, but the pressure then there would be no pressure on the Eastern Conference team in these playoffs. And there won't be. I mean, the Eastern Conference teams to me are playing with house money right now, including Orlando. You know, they were a 4 seed. They were expected to win the first round. Now they might feel a little pressure because now they're the home team all the way through the East, and we'll get to that. But wow, this could all set up for some wild times here in these MLS Cup playoffs. And it wasn't quite that way last season. It was very much more chalky last year. Like
you're right.
Just favorites taking care of business pretty much, down the line. I mean, again, you're always going to have some kind of mild upsets here and there, but these were not mild upsets this year so far.
Yeah.
And that's really created some wild. Back to the LAFC, Seattle, Mario. We said the Sounders are much improved. Why have LAFC had such success against this team? Let's break that down. Because
Steve Cherundolo has something figured out about Seattle because nobody does this to Seattle. LAFC is 4-0 against Seattle in 2024. They've outscored them 9-1, knocking them out of the Leagues Cup, Opens Cup, in Seattle too. Yeah. In Seattle, those wins. So those are huge. So he has something figured out. So, and he also has a bench. I mean, he can look to that bench and he has options there, right? He has tactical options in his head. He has players there that he knows he can put into those particular situations. You need Carlos Vela in the 80th minute, 85th minute for something magical or something. He might have that. He could pull that out. He can pull out, like he did in the last game. Giroud comes in at halftime and impacts the game in so many ways. How about the youngster David Martinez? These are guys off the bench, Dave. Yeah. Does Seattle have guys like this off the bench? This is the thing. Whenever you have a starting 11 that goes out there, a lot of the league can be competitive with the starting 11. But whenever you get to halftime and you have the mind of Steve Cherundolo and you have the bench that he has, and then they start making the tweaks and the tactical changes there, I think that's where LAFC have the upper hand.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think that's very good. I also think that Seattle, the way they play, it's not too defensive. But they're very good defensively, so they don't want to give you anything, coming forward against them, right? A lot of shots. Stefan Fry had a great year. Best defense in MLS, in my opinion. 35 goals allowed in the league. They just don't give up a lot of chances. But it does take a little sting out of their offense because of that. They don't have the Nico Lodero to hit you on the counter anymore, or just, to get away from that bunker defense and kind of keep the ball long enough where Seattle can get into the offense and then really start to hurt you. They don't quite have that offensive game where now it comes down to LAFC. If you don't give up a big error and you just be smart defensively, Seattle's not going to get a boatload of chances against you. Like,
that's a great point. I was going to say that. The LAFC is not going to give you many chances.
It doesn't mean they can't win. They're one of the best teams in the league for a reason, right? They're a 4th seed. They had a great finish to the season. It's not like this is automatic by any means, but it's more just LAFC, to me, this game is all about the black and gold. No disrespect to Seattle. If LAFC plays well, they will not lose.
Jordan Morris has to be very clinical. He has to be sharp with his finish.
Is he going to play? He's not going to get very many chances. He didn't even play that game. Rothrock is dangerous. Okay, but LAFC have held him down. Raul Ruiz, yes, he can beat you, but it's more of a moment of magic now from him rather than, he's getting a little bit older and it's not like he dominates matches. I find, a lot of the stuff I've seen from Seattle with him against LAFC, he was coming way too deep. That was a problem. They couldn't get him the ball up front. It was more like the only time Rui Diaz had the ball was when he's back at midfield. I think LAFC will put up with that all day, right? I mean, he's not going to crush you from there. You don't want him around the box getting chances. Now, again, if LAFC don't play well, all bets are off. Anybody can lose at this point. I mean, that's just, you have to play well the rest of the way or you're going to get beat. But if they do, Seattle cannot win. I mean, that is just the way it goes because of the way LAFC can kind of hold that offense down when they play well, because the Black and Gold's defense has been very good this season. And they were great against Seattle, bottom line, in all 3 matches. They didn't get scored on this year against the Sounders, not yet. Let's hope that continues, certainly.
Incredible. I can't even believe you're saying that. It's very hard
shutouts.
Yeah.
How hard is it to come by shutouts? Very difficult, right? In any team, any league, and especially MLS, because it's so much offensive talent has been, pumped into this league just because of the new rules back a few years ago with the U22s and the expanding of the designated player, rule and all that. So much more offensive talent has been pumped into this league. Most MLS teams don't go looking for designated player spots to be filled by defenders. It can happen, and there are few, but that's not your main primary, So a lot of offense has been injected to this league. It's hard to shut people out. But LAFC has done it against Seattle.
The past 2 games, Denis Bouanga, he's been shut out for the past 2 playoff games. He doesn't go 3 games. He's never gone 3 MLS playoff games without scoring a goal. So he's overdue, and he's a killer, and he has the will to score like nobody else. And like he said when we talked last week, he said if he doesn't play good, he doesn't deserve the new clothes that he likes to wear. So Denis, he's going to go out there. He's going to try to play hard and do well so that he can buy new clothes. Okay, so watch out, Seattle.
It's not just about scoring, which, as Mario has pointed out, he might be due for that. It's also he does really break down Seattle's defense very well. Again, a tough task for anybody because Seattle's defense does not get broken down very often. But LAFC have done it. The 2 MLS games, 3-0 victories. Nobody's doing that to Seattle this year. Nobody's been doing it. Even in their struggle early, they weren't great. They finished strong. Make no mistake. Pedro de la Vega, certainly talented. Hasn't yet kind of clicked. Let's hope that continues at least one more match. I wouldn't put it past him for 2025, though, to have a massive year. And, it's not like Seattle are just going to sit on their hands by any means. This franchise doesn't do that. So you got to keep getting them when they're down a little bit, right? And when you have the advantage like this, we got to take advantage one more time. Ain't easy beating somebody 4 times in a row in one season. We know that, but.
And this is going to be LAFC's 50th match of 2024, right, Dave? This is going to be the 50th match and the second straight year that LAFC
over
are doing
100.
this.
Yeah, over 100 matches
no other
in 2
club,
years.
No other club in MLS history has done this. And this only happens because LAFC want to win every single trophy. They want to win every single tournament that they are in. They don't just want to pick and choose, So this is LAFC's time. Postseason, playoff, knockout rounds, knockout games. This is LAFC's time. And Steve Cherundolo knows exactly how to pace the team and the minutes and the rotations to get to these moments where we're at right now. And that's why they're healthy and strong and have the depth that they have.
I mean, what a surprise. I'm going to say LAFC is going to win, of course. We're not predicting or whatever, but I just think the matchup's too good. Fights styles make fights, as they always say.
Yeah,
I think the style is too good. LAFC have the clear advantage here. Around the rest of MLS, Mario, let's go to that now as we look at these other matchups, which are very intriguing in their own right on certain levels. LA Galaxy hosting Minnesota United will stay in the West. In the regular season, the Galaxy took 4 points from Minnesota, but those matches, as I look back and remember, those were like mid-season. That's a long time ago. That feels like last year already. These seasons are so long. We're talking literally middle of the summer, so can't really make much of that because Minnesota, again, finished very strong, but the Galaxy haven't lost at home, or I should say at Dignity Health Sports Park. They lost as one home team at the Rose Bowl, of course. But
what does that mean? They're due. They're due.
Well, Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that if Minnesota United wins, it's as big a shock as like Atlanta beating Inter Miami 2 out of 3. No way.
Oh boy, yeah,
Minnesota United's playing well. They could certainly win.
it's up there
But
though. Wow.
how do you stop this Galaxy team though? If you're
Yeah.
Minnesota United, I know Minnesota's got some pretty good defense, but wow, I mean, the Galaxy, you've got to have great defense. We know that to beat them, and thankfully we did 2 out of those 3 matches. But I don't think Minnesota United has quite the defense. Maybe Dane St. Clair can stand on his head. He can. Maybe he could have like one of those nights where he makes 8 saves, and they squeak out some 2-1 win or 1-0 somehow. Maybe. But Mario, I don't know. I just don't see it. I think the Galaxy's offense is too strong.
Yeah, they were strong. They've been so hot as well, racking up goals. But I think that break might be the best thing that could happen for Minnesota United if they want any chance, really, because they were so hot. And hopefully, if you're Minnesota United, you hope that Galaxy offense kind of just flamed out a little bit at least, because I don't know, will the Galaxy, with that whistle blowing in the first half, when the game gets going, are they going to be that same Galaxy? I think that's the challenge for Galaxy and Puig, and that's what he's mentioned before. And for Minnesota United to go in there against Galaxy, who's undefeated at home, is a tough task, but we'll see.
Well, by the way, Minnesota United tied with LAFC for the best road record in the West in the regular season. 8 wins on the road. So not a team that's going to really shrink from being on the road, certainly in this game against LA Galaxy. So interesting matchup, no doubt. And of course, LAFC will know we're playing the day before we go on Saturday. This game is a Sunday game. So if LAFC were to advance, all eyes on that one then of, obviously who we would be hosting in the next round. In the East, a couple of intriguing matchups if you just kind of wipe away if you're a Miami fan or Columbus fan. If you're a neutral or a fan of any of these particular 4 teams, these are very interesting matchups, Mario. We'll start with the Hudson River Derby. NYCFC hosting New York Red Bulls. The Pigeons with the season sweep, beating the Red Bulls twice, including a 5-1 win in late September. 5-1 thrashing at the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly don't believe any kind of game like that will happen. Maybe, I guess, if you got some red card weirdness, or I think it's going to be very close. These 2 teams obviously don't, to say they don't like each other is kind of unfair to not liking someone, because they hate each other. Frankly, sports hate to the hilt. So I can't really say I'm like leaning one way or the other in this one. I guess I would have to say NYCFC might be my choice, but nothing would shock me in this, Mario, with the Derby match.
I'm leaning the other way, actually, Dave, because I'm selfishly rooting for the New York Red Bulls in this one because I seen something early in the season with them. So I thought I would latch on to that team, in the East, and just kind of just keep my eye on them. And look, here they are now. And I thought they could be a dangerous club in the Eastern Conference with Forsberg. A healthy Forsberg is pretty dangerous. And Lewis Morgan is a great player as well. And those two, and with the rest of the squad that they have supporting them, they've had their ups and downs, throughout the season, but they're here in a derby match. Derby matches are crazy, wild things happens. And then when you put that derby match into a playoff type of setting, it's even crazier. So I don't know. That's happening right before our game, right before the LAFC game. So that's just like a little teaser, like kind of like the co-main event before our, LAFC, the main event. I'm going to be locked in on that one. I can't wait for that one. I think the Red Bulls have shown a little bit more offense as of late than NYCFC. True. And I think, it could be New York Red Bulls advancing.
Could be. There also could be that they kind of, I don't know, maybe it's such an emotional victory over Columbus in a sense in that series, winning 2 straight. Yeah. You're going to have to almost come back down to earth. And then the good news is you're playing your arch rival, so that should not be a problem, really. I mean, you should be ready to go after this long break. Get that out of your head that you beat Columbus. Okay, that's amazing, no doubt. But now you really got another tough task here, taking on, your arch rival again, the Hudson River Derby. So what could be interesting, too, for Red Bull is, if Atlanta United stays crazy hot, one of these New York teams would host the Eastern Conference Final. So Atlanta United obviously has no chance to host anything. So if they were to keep winning, I'm sure I'm sure the New York sides wouldn't mind if that happened. They'll probably be rooting hard for Atlanta United, but they do take on Orlando at Orlando, the 4 seed in the East against the 9 seed. But Atlanta won both in the regular season, including decision day when they beat Orlando just to get in. They still needed some other help. They were so bad, but they needed to win, and they got the victory, on decision day at Orlando. So that's only like weeks ago, a month ago now, roughly. But that's not that long ago, Mario. That's got to be in the heads of Orlando, right? I mean, that does have to be concerning.
I mean, I have no idea what to go with on this Eastern Conference just because the 1 and 2 and 3 teams are all out. I really don't know what to make of this Eastern Conference. Does Atlanta just have, Inter Miami's number, or what is it? Are they riding high off that wild card, riding high off that Inter Miami knockout? And then are they going to lose the next match? Who knows? It's hard to call it here in the East because it's not the top 3 teams that can just dominate and you're supposed to win. These teams are supposed to go through, so it's a tough one.
Yeah, for me, watching this whole season, Orlando's been one of the weird teams for me. They did need to get Ojeda in the lineup. They finally did more consistently and became better. No doubt. So, whatever was going on behind, we don't know all that stuff. I don't know why he wasn't playing, but that's obviously not my concern. But they are a better team than we saw at certain times, including when LAFC played them, realistically. But they're also a team that, in short stretches can look, quite frankly, like the best team in MLS. They have that kind of talent. And then they can look like a team that doesn't belong anywhere near the playoffs. There's a lot of very hot, very cold with this team. Now, It's mostly been better, certainly. They're a good team. They're a 4 seed. But, Mario, this is a very, flip a coin some nights with Orlando City. They could win the whole stinking thing or get destroyed against Atlanta, and nothing would surprise me.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta won as well, and if Atlanta does get past them and they make it to where they're in the Eastern Conference final, where they're 1 match away from the MLS Cup final. You don't think they're going to be pumped up and motivated after what they've been through to get to that MLS Cup final? And then Brad Guzan, don't be shocked if he is a key player in the next game, because he had a tremendous series against Messi and Inter Miami, stopping Suarez a bunch of times, stopping Messi a bunch of times. So a high goalkeeper is somebody that could keep you in a game. I don't know if he can win you the game, but he can keep you in the game and help you, to get through, to get past and advance in the playoffs.
Yeah, very interesting matchups, no doubt. We do want to ask a question too, Mario. I'll put this in the rundown. Miami, they win the Supporter Shield, 74 points. I've been hearing this a lot in podcasts. I listen to a lot of MLS stuff, read a lot of MLS stuff. And so I've been hearing a lot of people commenting on this. A lot of men and women talking about, was Inter Miami's season a failure? Dumped out of the first round against the 9 seed. When you have home field advantage, you lose 2 out of 3. It wasn't a 1-game kind of weird thing. And you were 34 points better. You were the best regular season team in the history of MLS. You win the Supporter Shield. Was that enough to make that a successful season, or is this a failure for this Inter Miami team?
I think there was just so many expectations, right? To just go into every single tournament and just win every single tournament. They did win the Leagues Cup. They did win the Supporter Shield. But, for them to win everything, I think is just a little bit too far. But that was people's expectations. They thought Messi was just going to come in and dominate, but that's just not how it goes here. So was it a letdown? I would say yes, but a disappointment? I don't think so, because from what they came from before Messi was there, they were down at the bottom. It was tough. It was tough for Inter Miami. They had a tough going when they first jumped onto the MLS, but then all of a sudden Messi gets there to see how far they've made it since Messi's been there. 2 trophies, the Leagues Cup and Supporter Shield in less than 2 years. That's pretty good,
Yeah.
And it's hard to win Supporter Shield and MLS Cup. Not too many teams do that. So maybe you win Supporter Shield 1 year, maybe the next year or the following year you win MLS Cup final.
Sure. It's not a cop-out answer when I say this. I can understand if people thought it was a failure based on their expectations.
Yeah, there was a
But
lot of expectations.
I think those particular people's expectations were probably wrong then. It's not like you won the Supporter Shield with the best record. In the playoffs, you basically lost because of Brad Guzan. Now, your defense struggled, but realistically, if you had gotten a few past Guzan that should have been past Guzan, who stood on his head, you wouldn't have needed your defense because Atlanta would have been dead and buried in those matches, right? They wouldn't even have come back. I believe that. Like, it's not like, well, Atlanta scored 3 in the final. Yeah, but if Inter Miami was up 3-0 at halftime, like they could have, or whatever, I know I'm just making that up. But you get my point. If your goalkeeper standing on his head like Guzan did, that changes everything. Of course, that changes the flow of the whole series, but it changes the flow of every match. It changes the flow of every 10-minute stretch.
Yeah,
and that's the difference. They didn't lose to Atlanta; they lost to Brad Guzan. Now, I know Atlanta United deserves some credit too, of course, the whole team, but it really was that simple. If Guzan just plays average, we're not even talking. We're still talking about, Inter Miami now has an even easier look out. They're going to just, if they beat Orlando, they'll handle the New York team, whoever like this is easy. Like they're going to crush now that Columbus is out. We're like Brad Guzan away from talking like that instead of, how disappointing. So it's not a failure in that sense. Yes, they failed in the playoffs. They didn't win Leagues Cup either this year. So they're not getting some big trophy, but they got the Supporter Shields. So that is a big trophy. Right? You're getting into the Champions Cup. You're into the Club World Cup. Now, you can argue about why that was, whatever. FIFA made that choice, not MLS, according to all reports. But they got a lot to still, look forward to in the sense and build on, as you said, Mario. That's just a good way to put it.
I think Busquets didn't really look like he was fully recovered from his injury, and he is a big part of setting up the guys going forward, going into the offense. But next year is going to be interesting for Miami. Just remember that that's another year added on for some of these stars. These stars are not very young. These stars are a little bit older guys here, so they're obviously going to bring in some new talent. And people are saying there's going to be some more Messi friends, some more bigger stars coming into Miami. So that'll be interesting. But it is another year added on to these long careers that these guys have already had. So we'll see how they look out next year when they come back.
Yeah, there's no way a season can be a failure if you win the Supporter Shield. Yeah, it's a failure in the playoffs, of course. They failed to win MLS Cup, and that's disappointing. But not a failure, not when you have the best record in the history of MLS. It was, and let's remember, we say it all the time, Mario. I know we have all in America, especially, but all sports fans, we get so myopic. Trophies, championships. Okay, I get it. Only one team can win each individual trophy, right? Now, the good news is there's a few of them on the line every year in MLS, thankfully. So yeah, you got a good, you have a good shot if you're a good team. But you can only one team is winning MLS Cup. Yes, there's 28 other teams disappointed, but that doesn't mean it's all utter failure your whole season because you weren't the one team.
The fact that they lost to a wild card team was like a big part of that word failure.
They failed in the playoffs. That was awful.
Yeah,
no doubt. But that doesn't erase the whole season. It can't. And we're in the entertainment business too. They were very entertaining, even without Messi, which could have been a lot more difficult. This team was very good, and we talked about that. So I don't know how you can just say, it's a complete... I guarantee you there was a lot of entertainment that was, captured by Inter Miami fans because of this season.
Oh, yeah.
That's another way to look at it, bottom line. I hope you have found tremendous entertainment in 40 episodes now of LAFC Plus with Mario Ruiz and I. Mario, can't wait. Saturday, November 23rd, LAFC hosting Seattle. Pregame at 7 p.m. That will be on the ESPN LA app. Great app. Download it. The ESPN Los Angeles app. Super easy to use. Once you download it, you click on the LAFC button. Boom. Done. And I can't wait, Mario. At BMO Stadium, my favorite place for world football. Let's go.
Do you know, Dave, how close we are to hosting another MLS Cup final, Dave? Another MLS Cup final, just 2 wins, and you get to host an MLS Cup final at BMO Stadium, Dave.
I can't look that far ahead. I want to so bad. You're right, but I mean, we can technically, but my brain can't even get there yet because it is going to be difficult. There's no doubt about it. A couple of big hurdles. One of them starts on Saturday with Seattle Sounders, Mario. Love it. Love talking. Take us out of here, brother. Love talking with you, LAFC Plus, and the rest of MLS and all the playoffs. I look forward to it. Lead us out of this thing.
Wow,
LAFC
Dave, that
Plus.
has been episode number 40. Number 40 of LAFC Plus. That's Dave Denholm and Mario Ruiz. We'll catch you guys on the next episode after LAFC's Eastern Conference semifinal versus Seattle. Peace.